Get my 6. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the most tremendously awesome homesteading channel on the entire internet in the universe that has absolutely nothing to do whatsoever with homesteading. Homesteading off the grid. I wanted to wear my new hat, but it blocks my peripheral vision. And you never know who or what may or may not be sneaking up on us in the background or peeking out from behind some trees. Such has been the case so often recently. So continue to get my 6, which means look behind me. No, I didn't get a haircut. It's in a ponytail. But let's go with Rockstar mode here this evening. Just because it's been a while. It's crazy. The Karens aren't coming after me more. I was literally going to get my hair cut in the Philippines this past winter because it was so freaking hot over there. It was like 90-something degrees every day. But it was too profitable to have it because all these 50-plus-year-old women kept coming on the Facebook page. Sick Twisted Humor saying, "You look ridiculous with long hair. Cut that. You're too old to take care of that." And blah, blah, blah. Well, you get paid different ways on the different social media platforms. And one of the biggest ways you get paid on Facebook is through interactions. So that means comments like that, emojis, thumbs up, shares, likes. And I was making a fortune off of all these old biddies just telling me to cut my hair. Listen, as far as hard to take care of, this is how hard it is to take care of. Let's say I'm having a day I don't want to deal with these Rockstar locks. Come on, you know this. You know this. Don't act like you don't. Whatever. Look at that. Boom. Bam. Don't got to take care of nothing, Karen. All right. So anyway, I have a treat for you this evening. Yes, I have a treat for you. Is it finally the announcement of the protein recovery shake that I drank after strenuous workouts? Today, of which pretty hardcore 30-minute circuit training thing, which involved quarter mile sprints in between, lifting sessions, or the 1 hour quickly paced hike I took 1 hour after that. So that's why I need the recovery. Is it that? No, because these ass clowns still have not agreed to sponsor the channel. So hey, no free advertisements. All right. Here's what it is. Listen, many of you are familiar with the True Hauntings, the short story collection series of people's real experiences they've had with anything paranormal, supernatural, cryptid in nature, UFOs, aliens. These folks submit their stories to the channel. The email address is in the description box below. It's crazylake@mail.com. And when we get enough, once we get every 40,000 words, which is the length of a novel, of course, these are short stories. They become novel-length short story collections. We put them together, publish them on Amazon and print and Kindle. Been getting a lot of them. We're more than halfway through True Hauntings Volume 5. Which I would like to really see come out in like 6 weeks or so. Got a story just yesterday morning that was pretty creepy. And so I'm going to read it to you. I'm hearing footsteps, so continue to get my 6. So, listen, if you have a story along those lines and you'd like to share it with the world, you can do so by sending it to us. And if you don't want us to mention your name, which probably about half the people don't, you can just say, hey, don't mention my name. And we will tell your story anonymously, okay? This one was submitted by a woman who doesn't mind her name being mentioned. And well, there goes the rock star look, right? Jeez. Hold on. Well, I mean, unless you think maybe Ozzy Osbourne, Kiss, all the greats are getting old now, right? But let's go back into librarian mode because I got to put on the reading glasses or I won't be able to read you the story. All right, look, we're even going to do not the man bun, but the librarian bun, okay? Because this, you got to read. Got these in the Philippines this winter. Got the eyes checked, prescription lenses, designer frames. I think it was $64. Yeah, because they don't have that legalized fraud / Ponzi scheme over there known as health insurance. No, they have it, but the premiums aren't the equivalency of your monthly mortgage payment or your rent payment because it's whatever, $64 cash money. Dental work. Got a full cleaning, x-rays, and 2 fillings. $96. $96. My wife has a Filipino friend living in Texas who just had the same thing done in Texas. Cost her $3,000. Yeah, but it's okay because the health insurance company paid $2,500 of it. And so her co-payment was only $500. $500 versus $94 plus her monthly payment of $2,000 a month. So $24,500 she only paid to have $94 worth of dental work done. We currently are not raising any livestock on our homestead, but suddenly I have this image coming to my mind of sheep. All right, let's get on to the story. It's called October's Evening Visitor. And this is submitted to us by longtime follower Donitha Johnson. Donitha writes, "Hi, Kevin. I've been watching your YouTube channel, Homesteading Off the Grid, off and on for years. I usually watch every night in October because I love how you tell the spooky stories every night leading up to Halloween. I find some of your Bigfoot Sasquatch stuff entertaining, but it isn't really my thing. I have my own tale from October, if you will, that I'd like to share with you. I give you my permission to share it on your YouTube channel or in any of your books. I've not read your True Hauntings collections, but who knows? Maybe if you actually put my story in one of them, it might encourage me to do so. Hey, Donitha! Volumes 1 through 4 are available in print and or Kindle on Amazon. The link is in the description box below. And if you want an autographed copy of Volumes 1 through 3, we got them on our Etsy store. And yeah, you're going to be in Volume 5 right here. 20 years ago, she continues, or thereabouts, my daughter, who was 23 at the time, got busted for drinking and driving. It was her first and last offense. She'd never been in trouble with the law, and the judge was very lenient on her. He sentenced her to 6 months probation and suspended her driver's license for the same amount of time, and he required her to do 40 hours of community service. She had several options to choose from as far as her community service went, and she chose to volunteer at an assisted living facility for lower economic status people. Many of the residents she and I would find had mental challenges, but not so bad to where you'd notice at first glance, and most of them also were elderly. It was really mostly like a retirement home for moderately mentally retarded patients who couldn't afford to go anywhere else. Since my daughter couldn't drive, my husband and I would take turns taking her to and picking her up from the retirement home. If I were to take her, my husband would pick her up and vice versa. The center was about half an hour from our home. Anyway, it just so happened that she was putting in her hours at this facility during the month of October. Across the road from the facility, there was a quite sizable cemetery. In the evenings when I would go to pick my daughter up, I would always arrive early, just in case she got off a little early, and while I waited for her, I did so across the street in the cemetery. There were several benches scattered throughout the cemetery, and I would generally sit on a different bench each evening and take in the beautiful view from different angles. The yellow leaves on the poplar trees, the blaze orange or bright red leaves on the maples, and the golden leaves on the oaks made such a beautiful scene. Quite early into the month of October, I was sitting on a bench admiring the view when it occurred to me that there was someone sitting on the bench with me. I looked over, and sure enough, there was an older black man who had to be about 80 years old, just sitting there, staring off into the scenery with me. Kevin, that man was not on that bench when I sat down, and for the life of me, I promise you, I did not see or notice him sit down after I already had. It was like one moment he was there, he wasn't there, and then he was. I said hello, and I hoped he hadn't noticed my sudden yet slight start. He said hello back without turning his head toward me. We sat in silence for a couple of minutes. I had mixed feelings. I was a little creeped out because he had just appeared, and I also felt as if he wanted his private time, so I got up and went to another bench about 50 yards away. I tell you, I get leery when I hear those pileated woodpecker calls. Because, you know, it may or may not be a pileated woodpecker. These things are known for their mimicry. Mimicry. That's when one creature in the wild imitates another, usually for some sort of self-defense or protection. Like the flies that look like bumblebees, or that moth that looks like a bumblebee. You've seen that thing, right? It's not a bumblebee. It's not going to sting you, but the birds don't know that, so they don't mess with those flies and moths. Definite footsteps. Keep watching. Let's continue with the story. I told my husband about it that evening after getting home, and he told me the same thing had happened to him. My husband is the much more talkative of the two of us, so I wasn't surprised when he told me that he and the old man had had a pleasant conversation for about 5 minutes before our daughter was done for the day. He told me the old man had even told him his name. It was Smitty. The next time I went to get my daughter, I intentionally arrived even earlier than usual because I wanted to see if I could see Smitty in the cemetery, and I wanted to make sure I saw him before he saw me. It still wasn't sitting well with me that he just appeared. Sure enough, as I entered the cemetery, there was Smitty, sitting on a bench, the same one he'd joined me on just a few days before. I felt a sudden sense of ease, now realizing that he'd probably been there when I'd sat down the other day and that I just hadn't realized it because my mind was preoccupied. I sat down beside him and said hello again. This time I did strike up a conversation. I started by telling him he'd met my husband. He couldn't recall specifically who my husband was, but I figured at 80, he'd probably met tons of people and his memory might not be as sharp as it had been in his younger years. I saw Smitty several more times after that, and we always talked, but never in depth about anything really, just vague nuances. One thing I always noticed was that he never looked at me, no eye contact. He always just stared straight ahead as if he was lost in thought, but he always seemed fully conscious and entirely aware of my presence. You get my 6? I know it's your natural tendency to want to watch me as I read this story, but don't. Just listen. And watch what may or may not be coming up behind us. We've been catching so much stuff on camera lately. On with the story. On the last day that my daughter had her community service at the center, I'd arrived early as usual, and I'd brought half a dozen cupcakes with me. I'd baked them that afternoon specifically to take to Smitty as a parting gift, so to say. I wouldn't be coming back, and he seemed like such a nice old man. When I got to the cemetery and approached the bench where I'd gotten used to sitting with Smitty, I saw that he wasn't there. There was, however, a family of 4 there. They were a black family, and they were made up of a man and a woman, about 60, and 2 women, about 40. I sat down on the bench, expecting Smitty to arrive at any moment. The family of 4 noticed me and said hello. I said hello back. I was looking and looking for Smitty, but he was nowhere to be seen. Just then, the 60-year-old woman sat down beside me. "Do you mind?" she asked. "I need to get off my feet." Not at all, I said. We're just here visiting Daddy, she said. I noticed she was holding a picture album in her hands. As she'd spoken these last words, she flipped the album open. She'd flipped the album open, and there, in the pictures of that album, I saw Smitty. Kevin, like you say in one of your most awesome videos on your channel, I felt my veins run cold. I actually wanted to speak, but couldn't, and I'm glad of it now because it probably wouldn't have come across too keenly as claiming that I'd been spending time with this woman's father's ghost. He led a full life, though, the woman then said, flipping through the pages of the album. I glanced down and saw a picture of Smitty wearing an army uniform in his much younger years. I read the name tag on the uniform. It said Smith. I put two and two together and realized that Smitty was a nickname probably derived from his surname Smith. It took me a couple of minutes before I felt that I could stand safely without falling. When I could, I did, and I very pleasantly excused myself, and I waited for my daughter in the car. I did give the cupcakes to that very pleasant woman, Smitty's daughter, and she seemed very happy to have them. I told my husband about my experience after I'd gotten home, and he absolutely 100% believed me. Excuse me. He knows I'm not a liar, and I'm not creative enough to be a storyteller. Throughout the years, when I would pass by that cemetery, either alone or with my husband, I would get out, I still do actually, and go to the area where my husband and I used to visit with Smitty. The old bench has been moved elsewhere. However, neither my husband or myself have seen Smitty since those days. Kevin, I would have never believed these types of experiences were possible until it happened to me personally. I am now a believer. I am convinced there are things in this world that cannot be explained through science or reason. Again, you have my permission to use this story in any way you deem fit. I hope you keep making videos because you have entertained me on many, many occasions, especially in the month of October. Your fan, Donetha Johnson. The end. Wow, Donetha. Thank you for submitting your story. That one was just too good to wait until True Hauntings Volume 5 is out there on the market, which I'm hoping is another, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. Folks, listen, I know most of you out there have had some kind of strange experience. It's one of the reasons you're drawn to this channel. It's just not my secretarial good looks. I mean, that's just part of it. But you kind of feel safe here because, most places you talk about this kind of stuff, they call you crazy. Cray. I guess they kind of call me that too. But listen, if you've got a story, submit it. The email address is in the description box below. It's crazylake@mail.com. And again, if you don't want to be outed, if you don't want people to know your name, say, hey, now you got to give me permission to tell your story. So you've got permission to use my story, but please don't say my name. And I'll come out here and I'll tell your story anonymously. We'll put it in the book anonymously. But these are the stories that need to be heard. I mean, when every day men and women of all generations, all ethnicities are having these experiences, it's got to mean something, okay? It's got to mean something. It's got to mean potentially stuff's real, right? So speak up. Send us your stories. Thanks for being here. How about that Bigfoot Sasquatch capture on video yet again yesterday? Hey, I'm not done planting trees. Well, I think I am done planting trees over there. Now I'm going to go with some privets, maybe some autumn olives, perhaps some Virginia burning bushes. I want some lower, closer to the ground, thick, bushy type stuff to block a certain view. But the trees are good to go. But the facts are, I will be working over there in that area, doing some more planning, and I will be recording, and let's see if we can capture him, her, it, or they on film again. And until then, we'll see you for more next time from the most awesomest homesteading channel on the entire freaking internet, like the what World Wide Web, all of it. That's got nothing to do with homesteading. Homesteading off the grid. Peace out, dude.